Good afternoon, Dixon. This is City Manager Danny Langloss. Last night we hosted a public forum on the ITEP grant. We want to thank all those people who came out to learn about the grant and the exciting project, which is part of Project Viaduct Point. The purpose of this video is to kind of give just a short recap of the meeting, touch on the highlights of the ITEP grant so you have information, and through this video we'll be showing you some concepts of the area in Project Viaduct Point. I do want to be clear that the path that's shown within the concepts is fairly set, but the concepts themselves are just that, they're concepts. That area really could be anything, as long as we take into account the floodway, floodplain. So there's still a lot of visioning to be done. There's developers who have actively approached us and are interested in the area for potentially hotel, restaurant development. So through this video, we'll show that area and potential concepts, if that makes sense. So first I want to start by telling you what the ITEP grant is. The ITEP grant is a federal grant that's administered by the state through the Illinois Department of Transportation. ITEP stands for Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program. The purpose of it is to expand travel options, options other than just motorized vehicles, to include pedestrian walkways, bicycle ways, those types of things, and improve quality of life across the communities in Illinois. So when you think about the funding and where this funding comes from, again, it's federal dollars. And for this grant, it was an 80-20 match. In our case, we won a $2 million grant. So we have a $400,000 minimum match. So the way this grant works, which is kind of exciting, is we're eligible to receive the full $2 million. We have to add $400,000 to it, and through the project and the cost of the project, the city is projected to put in a little more than that. In fact, the city's portion of the project is expected to be about $750,000 when everything is said and done, and we will receive $2 million from the federal government. First, I'd like to talk a little bit about the timeline. So this expansion of the riverfront, this Viaduct Point area, the pathways, was originally the vision of several leaders in our community and part of the Riverfront Master Plan, which was adopted, I believe, in 1989. So Mayor Burke and several community leaders were working on envisioning this area when they visioned Heritage Crossing. And this is a vision that's been continued through our current city council and championed by Mayor Lee Arellano. In 2016, the city council, under Mayor Arellano's direction, decided unanimously to pursue the ITEP grant. That summer, they hired Fair Graham, an engineering firm, to write the grant, and in the fall of 2016, we found out that we had in fact won the grant. Since then, Fair Graham has been hired to do preliminary engineering 1 and 2, and they're moving along in that concept. Development in this area and moving forward in the grant has been slowed down a little bit because of the environmental issues in the junkyard. So as you've seen in some of the newspapers that may have followed along, there is significant contamination that is a public safety concern in the junkyard area. We work closely with Fair Graham, who got the Illinois EPA involved, and in turn, Fair Graham and the Illinois EPA were able to get the United States EPA involved. And through some incredible teamwork and planning, and because of the vision, it came down to the vision that we have for this space in Viaduct Point, the United States EPA is doing $3.7 million in remediation work for the junkyard to get it prepared for public use. This was a huge win, a big deal. It's something we've been working on a ton behind the scenes. If you've driven by the site, if you look over across from the school, you've seen an incredible amount of work's been done there, and we're really grateful to have been able to pull that off to be able to move this project forward. So I'm going to go ahead and show a couple concepts in the video here and transition over to initially the DIMCO site. So as you look at the DIMCO site, this is the former junkyard. This is a picture taken by one of our police drones. So much work's been done there. They're going to be wrapping up here soon because of the weather, and then coming back and finishing in the spring. From there, there'll be a few $1 million of work left, and we're going to be pursuing grants from the Illinois EPA and the Brownsfield grants to help pay for that. There may or may not be city funds that need to be expended in this area, potentially up to $300,000 to $500,000. But it'll depend on the work we do with the developer. This area is also in a TIF district, So monies that are created in property tax from development could go to these types of expenses. The next image I'm going to show is the boundary within the red of Viaduct Point. So you can see the Viaduct Point project goes from Peoria down to include the old railroad tracks that go up on the berm there, and a lot of things within that. So the city does have control over the junkyard, over the NAC property, over several of the houses in this area. So the city does, and we will be taking control of the former NICOR property as well. And so we are in conversations with Kitzmans about their property, and they had announced their desire to sell their property. And aside from that, we really have control over what we need to have control over. Even if we don't end up with control over the Kitzman property, we'll be able to move forward with the development and with the project. And Viaduct Point is a little bit separate from the ITEP grant itself. The bike path will happen regardless. So the concept I'm going to show you now is the floodway and the floodplain maps. You know, as you can see with the colored lines that are running diagonal, that is the floodway. Unfortunately, the floodway runs and takes up most of what the Kitzman property is. To give a little explanation, when you look at floodway, you cannot build in floodway, and this area is going to need to be grass, parking lot, or open trenching, which is actually what the concept shows to relieve issues that are coming from upstream from Fargo Creek, and that would actually reduce the floodway and reduce the impact of the floodplain. The next image shown is an image of what's currently there with an overlay of a potential concept. Again, not a final plan, but just a beginning concept of what Viaduct Point would look like. And finally, this concept is the concept that's been created, originally created in 2017, minor adjustments made to it more recently to reflect what we think the area and project could look like. Again, we've got a hotel developer that's interested in this area. We've got restaurant developers interested in this area. You'll see the green space there, and that area is going to have to remain green space because there's a barrier there. So the EPA in some places took out 20 feet deep of soil, of ground, of earth. But in some areas they took as little as 2 feet. And what they've done is placed a barrier there that does provide the necessary protection that people need. But, digging into that area and disturbing the ground there isn't going to be an option for where we end up. So that will be open green space, and that will be able to be used for events and music concerts and kids fairs and all types of things. And we're trying to figure out, we want ideas from you about how can we better utilize the river? How can we better utilize the Rock River? So this is the ITEP grant. This is Project Viaduct Point. When you look at the concept, and I'll bring that up on the screen again, you can see everything in the red is the expansion of the bike path. So this bike path is going to extend another 1.6 miles. It's 1.6 miles in new pathway. In the red, it's going to extend west from Peoria down to the old railroad tracks, up on through the, you can see the boardwalk there. It'll be ADA compliant to the old railroad tracks. You can see where the lookout will be, where people can stand and look out over the river. And that'll actually go down, and that'll end around IDOT and dump into Dementtown. So down by where Flinny's is and where the new Little Smoked is going to be, where Most Plumbing is. Then you see on the other end, currently there's a pathway that runs on East River Street that stops around Bunny's Bait Shop. That pathway is going to extend down to Rayner. It'll then turn north and run north along Rayner's parking lot. And then there'll be a lookout there and a little cul-de-sac, so somebody riding their bike could pull in there and turn around and come back and head back towards town. There is hope one day and a desire one day to expand our trail system, to get out to White Oaks, to get out to Sauk. We know Sterling has desire to get to Sauk, and then we would connect the two communities. But those things are a little ways down the road and things that we're currently looking into. A few other things we just want to share. This is a really exciting project. It's not the only project that's going on. We're currently working on getting options to expand our industrial park as we try to recruit new good paying jobs. We're working with a developer who wants to develop about 30 acres in the I-88 corridor for potential hotels, fast food restaurants, sit-down restaurants, more gas stations to capture people coming off the tollway to generate those sales tax dollars and to provide more options for people in our community. And then we've partnered, as everybody knows, with the Dixon Strong Leadership Team, the Park District, the Y, the school district, in hopes of creating a community center. We're really taking a holistic approach, thinking about what is the ideal Dixon, in times where it's getting tougher and tougher from rural communities. How can we position ourselves and be a thriving rural community and prepare ourselves for the future? So there'll be more to come on that. Put your questions in below, comments, ideas. Really wanted to bring the information to you that we shared last night. It was a great meeting. Again, thanks for everybody that came out, and we'll have more to come. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon.